They thought I was just the janitor sitting quietly in the back row at my son's wedding. What they didn't know was that I was sitting on $95 million, and that I was about to expose every single person who looked down on me that day. My name is Thomas Walker, and what I'm about to share with you changed everything I believed about love, money, and respect. I'm 64 now, a retired hospital facilities director from Cleveland, Ohio, and a widower still learning how to live in a world without my wife, Elaine. We were married 40 years. She was my first love, my only love, and the smartest woman I ever knew. She also happened to be a secret millionaire, a fact she never once mentioned, not even as cancer slowly took her from me. A few weeks after Elaine passed, I found a key behind the velvet lining of her jewelry box, just as she instructed in her final note to me. That key led me to a safety deposit box at a local bank. Inside it, a sealed folder filled with trust papers, account numbers, and a handwritten note. $95 million. All in her maiden name. Quietly invested for decades, grown from inheritance and her own side ventures I never knew existed. My Elaine had been quietly building a fortune while we lived a modest life in a 3-bedroom home in Parma, Ohio. But the money wasn't the shocking part. What shook me to my core was the fact that she never used it, not once, even when we struggled to buy our son Daniel's college books. I realized why. She was protecting me. She knew I needed to feel like I was providing for my family.
She honored that.
And now I needed to honor her legacy. That's when I decided I wouldn't tell Daniel. At least not right away. He had just completed his surgical residency and was thriving. I needed to know who he was when money wasn't a factor. Then came the day Daniel came home with news. He had met someone. Her name was Madeline Whitmore, and she came from a family that basically owned half of Boston. Her father ran Whitmore Holdings, and their wealth stretched back to railroads and oil. But Daniel was in love, and that mattered to me. What mattered more was how they treated people, especially me. When I first met Madeline, she was all smiles and politeness. But I could feel the distance behind her words. The way she complimented my home with too much enthusiasm, or how she asked about my custodial work at the hospital, despite Daniel telling her I was the director of operations for 3 regional hospitals. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it, like I was a cute footnote in her soon-to-be husband's backstory. Still, I stayed quiet. For Daniel. Then came the first dinner with her parents, Robert and Catherine Whitmore. Their penthouse in Beacon Hill was everything you'd imagine: priceless art, vintage wine, an atmosphere of subtle intimidation. "Thomas," Robert said, shaking my hand like he was testing the grip of a golf caddy, "Daniel tells us you work in hospital facilities. That must be fulfilling." Catherine added, "We always say people who work with their hands have the most honest hearts." The message was clear. You're not like us. But we'll tolerate you for now. The condescension only grew as the wedding planning began. At one point, I overheard Catherine suggest that I be seated with the support staff so I'd feel more comfortable. Robert insisted on handling all the expenses, but made subtle jabs about financial differences and how they were a gift of stability for Daniel. I said nothing, just like Elaine would have. But I was watching. Then came the wedding weekend. It was hosted at a luxurious resort in Napa Valley, chosen for its exclusivity. My name was listed as just Mr. Thomas Walker, with no mention of being father of the groom. At the rehearsal dinner, I was seated near the kitchen. But the final straw came during Catherine's speech. Glass in hand, with the entire elite of Boston watching, she said, "Marrying Daniel has been an adjustment, but we've come to appreciate his authenticity and grounded background. We believe love transcends upbringing, and in time, even families like his can adapt to a more refined lifestyle." It was said with a smile that stabbed like a knife. That night, I made my decision. The next day, during the wedding reception, I waited until the final toast. As Robert rose to thank the guests, I stepped forward. Excuse me, I said calmly, microphone in hand. Before we end the evening, I think it's time I said something. All heads turned. First, congratulations to my son and his beautiful bride. I wish you a lifetime of happiness. But I need to clarify a few things. You see, I wasn't always the janitor in the back row, and I sure as hell wasn't the poor man you thought you were pitying.
Gasps.
Murmurs. I pulled from my jacket the bank statement. 6 months ago, my wife of 40 years passed away. She left behind not just memories, but $95 million. All legally mine. I could have bought this resort. I could have bought Whitmore Holdings if I felt like it. But I chose to live modestly, because character matters more than cash. You could hear a wine glass hit the floor. Daniel's mouth fell open. Madeline looked like she saw a ghost. Catherine turned white. Robert turned red. I continued. I wanted to see who would respect me without knowing what I had. And unfortunately, most of you failed that test. I turned to Daniel. Son, I raised you better than this. I raised you to look at people's hearts, not their wallets. I don't know if you lost your way or if you just got caught up in theirs, but it's time you ask yourself, who are you trying to become? Then I looked straight at Catherine. You wanted me in the back row. Turns out, I was the wealthiest man in the room. But I'd trade every penny to have my wife back. Because real wealth isn't money. It's legacy and dignity. I left that night. Walking out before the cake was even cut. A few weeks later, Daniel came to visit me. No tux. No pretense. Just my son, looking me in the eyes for the first time in months. Dad, you were right. I forgot who I was. And I think I forgot what love really means. Madeline and I were taking time to figure things out. But more than that, I want to be part of Mom's legacy. I want to help build the foundation she dreamed of. The one that helps kids from working-class families become doctors, engineers, teachers. Just like I was. We hugged. And I knew then, the story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. The Elaine Walker Foundation launched that spring. Full scholarships, mentorships, internships. And Daniel? He left Boston and moved back to Ohio.
To teach.
To serve. To remember. So, if you ever find yourself judged for what you look like, where you sit, or how little they think you have, remember, sometimes the quiet man in the back row is the one with the loudest legacy. And if you were in my shoes, what would you have done?